Today, real power is not built only with armies and weapons. It is built with concrete, steel, ports, shipping routes, and huge amount of debt. And if you look across the Indian Ocean today, you will see massive new ports coming up. And behind many of them is China acting like friendly construction company of the world. Beijing says these billion-dollar projects are just business deals, just infrastructure, just help for small countries to grow. But the truth is, these are not just business deals. These are beautiful gifts with a secret prize hidden in the fine print. Ports have been popping up all around India, in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Djibouti, almost like a strategic circle. And this circle threatens to give Beijing influence over the entire Indian Ocean. This is not some far away future problem. This is happening right now, quietly, slowly. And if India does not respond, this can change the balance of power in Asia for the next 100 years. This is the story of how China's Belt and Road Initiative became a direct challenge to India, and how India started fighting back, not by shouting, but by building its own network of power. To understand what China wants, just look at the map. For years, experts have called China's strategy the string of pearls. Imagine someone laying a necklace from China's coast all the way to Africa, and every pearl in that necklace is a port, a base, or a strategic location built with Chinese money. China says this is only to protect its trade ships, but let's be honest, nobody spends billions of dollars across the Indian Ocean only because they love cargo containers. This is about power. This is about reach. This is about China projecting influence far away from home. Beijing says the string of pearls is a fantasy. But strangely, they have spent billions making this fantasy look very real. Look at Gwadar port in Pakistan. It was supposed to be China's grand shortcut to the Arabian Sea, a shining symbol of China Pakistan friendship. But in reality, it is still struggling with difficult roads, poor connectivity, local unrest, and the usual Pakistan problem: big dreams, weak execution. China has invested in ports and infrastructure in Bangladesh and Myanmar, putting pressure on India's eastern side. And then comes the most famous example, Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. The perfect case study of how a country can lose something very important through bad planning, huge loans, and Chinese influence. Hambantota was built with massive loans from China for a project Sri Lanka could not afford properly. And when Sri Lanka could not repay, they had to give a Chinese company control of the port for 99 years. Just imagine that. It is like taking a loan, failing to pay, and the bank taking your house for the next century. Publicly, China says these ports are only for business, but the line between business and military is deliberately kept blurred. They call it dual use, which is a very polite way of saying today it is for cargo ships, tomorrow it can support warships. The same docks that welcome containers can also welcome naval vessels. The same fuel stations that can serve commercial ships can serve military fleets. So, this is not just infrastructure, this is a slow and steady plan to create control. Now, the real question is, why is this dangerous for India? Because this strategy works like a giant snake. It does not attack suddenly, it squeezes slowly. First through money, then through debt, and then through dependence, and finally through military pressure. Take Hambantota again. This is what many people call debt trap diplomacy. Offer a poor or developing country gets a big loan, build a big project, make a deal look attractive. Then, when the project does not make enough money and the country cannot repay it, you demand control. And suddenly, a strategic port of that country owned land is under Chinese influence. And China uses this influence We have seen Chinese research ships visiting these ports, but many of these research ships look less like a scientist lab and more like floating spy stations. And remember in 2014 when a Chinese submarine appeared in Colombo, that was not a friendly tourist visit. That was a message to India. We are here. We can operate in your own backyard. This is the real danger. If a conflict ever happens, this network of Chinese backed ports can help the Chinese Navy operate thousands of miles away from home. And even worse, some of China's projects, like China Pakistan Economic Corridor (CPEC), pass through Pakistan occupied Kashmir, land that India considers its own. So, this is not just a maritime issue. This is not just a trade issue. This is also sovereignty issue, a border issue, and a national security issue. This is new kind of power game, played not only with missiles and tanks, but with contracts, cranes, concrete, loans, and ports, where that becomes the weapon and the port becomes the front line. For a long time, it looked like India was only reacting. China was building, China was funding, China was expanding, and India was watching carefully. But now, that story has changed. India has launched its own counter strategy, and many people call it the necklace of diamonds. If China's string of pearls is a chain trying to trap India, then India's necklace of diamonds is the plan to break that very chain. The first major diamond is on India's own coast, Vizinjam. For years, India had to send a lot of its own cargo to ports like Colombo, Dubai, or Singapore, where big ships would load and unload containers. This means extra cost, extra dependence, and a security risk. But Vizinjam changes that. It is India's deep water transshipment port, built to handle some of the world's biggest container ships. And it directly challenges the foreign ports that controlled India's cargo movement for decades. And when Chinese companies wanted to get involved, India said no. Because New India understand one thing very clearly: ports are not just business, ports are national security. But the necklace of diamonds is not only inside India, it is even in the West. India has a 10-year deal to operate Chabahar port in Iran. And this is very important because Chabahar gives India access to Afghanistan and Central Asia while bypassing Pakistan. It is also a direct strategic answer to China's Gwadar port in Pakistan. Gwadar is China's bet with Pakistan. Chabahar is India's gateway to Central Asia. Two ports, two vision, one region, and a very big power game. India has also access to Dwonkom port in Oman and Singapore's Changi naval base near the Strait of Malacca, one of the world's most important shipping choke points. And this is not random diplomacy. This is carefully built network with partners to keep the Indian Ocean open, free and balanced. And then there is IMEC, the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. This is one of the biggest counter moves to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Think of China's BRI as a closed system where Beijing gives the money, Beijing builds the project, Beijing controls the terms, and smaller countries become dependent. IMEC is different. It is built on partnerships. India, the Middle East, Europe, shipping, railways, energy, digital connectivity. This is not about control. This is about connection. China's model says, take our loan, follow our rules. India's model says, build together, trade together, grow together. So the power game in the Indian Ocean has clearly changed. China tried to lock down the region by offering attractive deals that looked like development. But behind many of those deals was a larger ambition: influence, control, and strategic access. The string of pearls was meant to be a chain, slowly tightening around India. But China made one big mistake. It thought India's patience was weakness. It thought India would just keep watching. It underestimated the confidence of a new India. The old story of a nervous India surrounded by China is over. From Vizhinjam to Chabahar, from Dokkum to Changi, from IMAC to stronger maritime partnerships. India is no longer only defending, India is actively making its own moves. The necklace of diamonds is not just a fancy name, it is a statement that the Indian Ocean will not become China's private lake. It will remain open, free for all, and safe for all. China set up the game thinking it would win easily. Ports here, debt there, influence everywhere. But India responded in its own style, quietly, strategically, and patiently. By building its own ports, its own corridors, its own partnerships, and its own gateways to the world. And that is the real lesson. In this new game flow, India is not a follower. India is not a junior player. India is a power player. India is ready to create its own future. The story of Asia is changing every day. And if you want to understand what is shaping our world and how India is rising in this new power game, like this video, share it, and subscribe to India Positive. Because the next century will not be decided only on land, it will be decided on the seas, in ports, in trade routes, and in the Indian Ocean. Thanks for watching. Jai Hind.